Welcome, everyone. We are going to go ahead and get this meeting started. By my clock, it says 5:01. So I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. So first, we want to do an approval of the July 22nd, 2025 minutes. Does anyone have any discussions? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. And do I have a second?
A second.
Okay. All right. All in favor? All opposed? Same sign. Okay. Thank you. All right. Quickly before we get started, wanted to kind of go over a couple of things. As a reminder, we are now live streaming these meetings. So we want to obviously, we've switched around the room. I want to thank our interpreting staff for really trying to work to configure this to make it accessible for everyone, as well as the live stream. But I wanted to remind people, we need to wait to speak until our interpreters have time to get set. And so we have time for everyone to kind of make sure that everybody has access. So wanted to make sure we went over that really quick. I also want to go over the public comment procedures. Excited to see that we have several of you wanting to speak tonight. We always welcome public comment and happy to have it and happy to have our community engaged. You have to give a 24 hours notice that you want to be on the agenda for speaking, and you are limited to 5 minutes. Anna will be our timekeeper this evening, and once she stands, we ask that you go ahead and stop. Your 5 minutes are up, and that makes sure that with that 5 minutes, that gives everybody an opportunity that wants to talk the opportunity. So I want to talk about that, and then the next thing I want to kind of talk about is immediately after this meeting, we have an executive session. So typically we are able to stand around the room and talk and visit. However, tonight, because we have the executive session, we are asking that you go ahead and move to the hallway immediately following the meeting so that we can have our executive session. We just appreciate that so that some of us can get home that have a longer drive. So we thank you for that. The last thing that I kind of want to talk about and is hear about the budget. And I just kind of wanted to give you a quick update. Kim and I and Jeremy and Representative Thompson and Representative Ed Clare were able to have a meeting about 2 weeks ago, I believe. 2 weeks ago. Yes, I was extremely encouraged by the response from Representative Thompson. I feel like he got a very good education on ISD's budget. I know that Representative Clare has been really kind of drilling it into him, but I don't think until he got here did he really see the impact of some of the changes. So I was also encouraged because he also said that there might be some legislative things that we might be able to do to help in the interim before the next budget session, which would open up some funding availability from the state that we have not had access to, that other schools have access to. And then he also talked about some other legislative things that we might be able to look at to helping ensure that our students are getting the best access statewide and those kind of things. So I was very encouraged by the meeting. I have to say Kim and Jeremy did a phenomenal job of really presenting all of the information to them and seeing that. So I want to thank publicly, I'd like to thank Representative Thompson and Representative Clare for coming out and having that meeting with us and going over that with us. So I just kind of wanted to give that quick update before we get started. Jeremy and Kim, if there's anything you'd like to add about that meeting, I'm happy to have you chime in. Okay.
Actually, I will add a few things. Okay, I want to make sure everyone can see me okay. You're right, Kelly. It was an outstanding meeting. It gave me the opportunity to talk more about our budget, where the costs go to, how much was for personnel, because a high amount of our budget is directly personnel costs, operating dollars, how small those were. And we were able to talk more about what we do here at ISD. I think there were a lot of things they didn't really necessarily know. So I think it was nice for him to see that, to hear that. It was a good meeting. I'm looking forward to future collaboration. And Representative Thompson did say that he hoped that we would be able to meet again and continue to learn. And we are a state agency, but we are also a school. So how can we modify some things to make sure that it's most effective? So I think there'll be continued dialogue with myself, Jeremy, Kelly, and the representatives, but I am optimistic moving forward.
I just happened to think of two other things that came from that meeting. The first one was, while he didn't make any promises, but he did mention possibly having the opportunity for us to come and present to the entire Ways and Means committee on one of their learning sessions, which I think would be absolutely huge. And I will stay on him on that. And the other thing was that, I was a little concerned, him being a general education teacher background. When we said we had, an average of about 8 to 10 students, I said, I want to make sure you understand. And he goes, no, I feel like that is too many as well. So that was very encouraging that he also saw, that class size was very important to our students. So, and welcome. Sorry to put you on the spot, but was there anything else? I'm sorry, you didn't hear the beginning, but I kind of went over a brief overview of our meeting with Representative Thompson, your leadership in that. And so I wanted to see if there was anything else that you wanted to add regarding that meeting.
Sure. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you for your leadership. You were really the one who put it together, and it was a very good meeting. A lot of good information. I appreciated Chairman Thompson's willingness to come here to the campus and learn more about the school and some of the implications of the budget that took effect on July 1, and it was a good opportunity, as Kelly probably said, for Kim to share some of the things that she's doing and ways that she and her team are trying to make it work. So as I think I heard you saying, Kelly, as I walked in, and sorry I'm late, I came from the governor's office. I had 3 ceremonial bill signings, and then I was trying to get here in traffic. But there weren't any specific commitments other than to have more conversation, and I know that Chairman Thompson is committed to those conversations, to that ongoing conversation, and to trying to figure out solutions as we go forward. And I left the meeting, I think, feeling very good about the dialogue that took place and the commitment to ongoing dialogue. And I have a lot of confidence in Kim's leadership and her team. And I'm excited about the future, even though there are some obvious near-term challenges. So I don't know if there's anything else you wanted me to add, Kelly, but
No,
thank
that's
you.
great.
Again, thank you for arranging the meeting. I thought it was very successful.
All right. Well, thank you. So with that, we will turn it over for the superintendent's report, and I will turn that over to you, Kim.
Thank you. So good evening to you all. We have an extensive report tonight that I'll be covering, updates, and then ending up with the education team will cover student achievement data. Since our meeting July 22nd, it's been extremely busy. School got started, everything's been rolling pretty smoothly, and I'll give you more information about that soon. As I mentioned, after I go through my agenda, the education leadership team will go through the student data from 24-25 school year. Always a nice reminder to see we've got students here this evening ready to present, but we'd like to continue to recognize our students, their achievements. So they are in the room this evening, but it's nice to continue to remind us all what the vision statement is, the mission statement, why we're here for our students, our bilingual environment, to make sure that our students do belong, excel, and thrive, BET, which is our tagline, and has been. So it's nice to continue to review that and keep it fresh in our minds. And when students have that academic and social access, they have that ability to acquire language. And so keeping that at the forefront of our mind and realizing that's what we do every day. So working with the board and the staff to make sure this happens. We started the school year back. August 11th was the first day for our staff. And the theme this year, if you notice, the acronym ISD is Inspire. So how we can inspire learning within our students throughout the year, inspire motivation, and make sure that our staff are role models for one another and sparking that motivation within each other. And then supporting one another, because we do have some challenges we're facing. So it is important to collaborate, to work together, the students, the staff, as one team. So continuing to collaborate with compassion and care for one another. And then the D is for do, time to take action. Put those plans into action. We all have our individual duties and we are expected to adhere to those. And so that is our theme, inspire, support, and do this year. And I just wanted to make sure the board was aware of that. When I presented to the staff on our opening Monday afternoon, I did talk about my goals for the year as superintendent. It's important that I continue to clarify expectations, define what success looks like, both within our staff and our students, to make sure that everyone is on the same page, and to ensure that our goals are established and timelines are met. And then to model accountability, to make sure we are doing our due diligence. And we will have those successes, those triumphs, those missteps, and to make sure that we model accountability throughout all of those moments, not only for ourselves, but to model for our students. And then what's really important for myself is to foster that transparent environment, ensuring that communication is honest, that we are looking at our budget priorities and communicating those clearly and welcoming questions, inquiries about that. Sometimes I'll have those answers, and sometimes it may take time to get those answers, but just ensuring that transparency. And so I did review that with the staff during our opening week, looking at those areas of focus. So we completed our second week of school. We had our first week of school. We're on our second week now. It's been exciting. Everyone is diligently working. It's great to see the bright-eyed and bushy-tailed faces of our students back in action. And here we all are behind the scenes working effortlessly, making changes where needed. So we've gotten off to a good start this second week. And I really want to recognize the staff, how much I appreciate their adaptability. Some of them have taken on additional duties. We have a few staff members that changed shifts. They went from first shift to third shift to make sure we had plenty of coverage in our residential program. And we've had elementary teachers who, our elementary team, they're actually bringing the students from Sims Elementary over to Brown Cafeteria. So everything's gone off pretty well. And we're keeping optimistic, being positive. So I just want to mention how much I appreciate the staff. I can't really mention each and every change that's happened, but I do know the staff has been working diligently to make the changes we need to. They've been creative in executing those, and I appreciate it. But so far, we're off to a good start. The students are here. And oops, I got out of the line of the camera. I apologize. I have to make sure I stay over here. As I mentioned, we'd like to recognize students month to month, and this is a great opportunity our students had this past summer. I shared that with you. I want you to know what they've been up to. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mimi Fetzer, our guidance transition coordinator, to talk about the Future Deaf Scientist program. Mimi?
Hello, everyone. I'm Mimi Fetzer. I'm the transition coordinator. Thank you, Kim. I'm really excited and proud of our students. They just finished this internship this summer, Future Deaf Scientist program. So we're going to go over that tonight. This program started in 2021 with Rochester School for the Deaf and the Wilmot Cancer Institute. It's a collaborative effort. It was very, very successful, and that has since passed along to several other deaf schools. It's our first year being in partnership with IU at the Simon Cancer Center. There was a screening process through the transition assessment. Students who had already had an interest in maybe a medical field or a science field, they applied, and we selected 4 students to go into this internship. The internship was about a month, met for 3 times a week. They were able to go into the lab, have an appointments with patients, observe surgery. And then in the afternoon, after their morning sessions, they would be able to talk with other deaf doctors and deaf scientists from all over America. It was a really nice opportunity to see some deaf role models for our students. So I want to go ahead and introduce our interns. Come on up. Everybody see me okay? Melissa Eicher was a senior last year. She graduated and now she's at Gallaudet University for public health and minoring in nutrition. What's your name? Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. My name is Jaden. This is my side name.
Hi, I'm Amani, and I'm a junior at ISD. Hi, I'm Sarah, and I'm also a junior.
So what did you enjoy? What'd you do? Oh, it was really, really fun about DNA patterns, and we learned about genetic information and mutations of cells and how those cells develop and mutate into what is considered a sickness. I really enjoyed learning about that.
Do I talk about myself or?
Just talk about what you enjoyed about the internship.
I really enjoyed observing the doctors work with the patients. I was fascinated with their bedside manner. And then also the surgery part was really cool. I think for me, The doctor and patient relationship was nice. Going into the room and seeing the doctor interact with the patient, you know, giving feedback to the doctor, or excuse me, the patient about how they're doing was really different than what I was thinking. And I thought that was really cool. Being newer here and learning sign language, about 6 years ago, in English even more recently, it was really cool to see the new terms and learn so much.
And Mimi's asking, what was your favorite topic that you learned about? Yes, DNA mutation for you. Jaden, what about you, Amani?
Social determinants for health, you know, how different demographics of people can improve their health, you know, based on race, religion, where they're from, how they experience healthcare in general. Liver and blood cancers were what I focused on. Liver treatment is not easy because when cancer shows up, often it can be easily missed, and then it puts the health further at risk. I did see stage 4 cirrhosis of the liver, and that patient had to go. Sometimes patients were vague with their answers, and it took the doctor to really analyze labs, do chemo, to really figure out what was going on, because patients sometimes were just embarrassed about being open about their drinking and things. Blood cancers were interesting because they travel throughout the whole body. You know, whether it's their, you know, toxins in their environments, whether it's genetically based, alcohol abuse. The one negative impact from that, it just makes people so lethargic, very tired. So it's tough to see.
So some different topics that they touched on, as you can see, vary. And it was all really fascinating for each of them. So now, when you graduate, Jaden, what do you want to do? Well, I love softball, and so, and I also want to become a teacher. So a PE teacher specifically. So, you know, I learned a lot about how diet, you know, impacts everything. And I love junk food, but it causes a lot of problems. And so I want to teach people about how to, you know, prevent those things from happening, and exercise, and making sure that their nutrition is where it should be so that they can live a long, happy life. So exercise science, right? Well, I haven't decided to where exactly, but it'll be Gallaudet or RIT.
I'm going to be focusing on criminology or forensic psychology. So I would be studying criminals' body behavior, how they think, go to crime scenes, make observations, you know, try to figure out the motive behind someone's actions, things like that. That's what I want to do in the future.
When you graduate, what do you want to do?
I'm thinking about becoming an EMT. I really haven't decided how I want to go that route, but I don't want to become a doctor because it requires so much education and it's a lot of work. But I want to attend RIT.
Go RIT. This is being one more question for you girls. Tell the school board members why you decided to come, when you came to ISD. I pretty much have lived here, so last 2 years.
I can't remember the specific year I joined, but I was in the 7th grade.
Yeah, it was 7th grade. But where were you fluent in ASL, Amani, or did you learn?
Well, I went to a deaf school in Texas. But when I came here, some signs were regionally based. So I learned a lot more ASL, and because COVID, it was difficult. Because of my background, I was born in Eritrea, Africa, and I moved here 6 years ago. I came into ISD in 6th grade, and I really didn't understand ASL or English at that point. I didn't understand anything. You know, I was learning how I could sign. I was picking up the language, but I'm very thankful to the ISD staff being so willing and helpful and helping me understand the language. If I went to the public school, it'd just be really hard for me to communicate. I'd be really upset. Coming here was very inspiring, and I'm very grateful for ISD about my journey and picking up language, and things have improved a lot. So thank you.
Thank you. I also want to share that Beth Kimball was our supervising teacher during this internship. She joined them through the entire internship. So Beth, will you please raise your hand? We can all applaud you. Right. Do you all have any questions for the students?
Congratulations, I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Nice job. Really, what a phenomenal opportunity. When they reached out, when the University of Rochester reached out, there were other schools that got to participate. Connecticut, American School for the Deaf, Kentucky, Indiana. There was a school in Fremont, California. They partnered with Stanford University. Kentucky students partnered with the Kentucky University. So each school had a partner group. We were partnering with IU, and then another school was partnering with Yale. So there were some stipends provided. The students had this phenomenal experience, and really just what a lifetime experience that they'll remember. And we're hoping to continue that next year. Since the month of July, there have been extensive meetings happening. I have met with the education vertical frequently to get some clarifications. There's been some confusion about whether or not we're under the Department of Education, the DOE. We are actually part of the education vertical. The governor has his cabinet with secretaries for each vertical. And so we are part of the education vertical. Again, it's the education vertical that we report to. Indiana School for the Deaf reports to Dr. Katie Jenner, Secretary Jenner. She has a variety of agencies under her. I know you can't actually see this slide very well. And here I am just trying to stay in the camera angle here. So the Department of Education, ISD, ISBVI, the state boards are some of the agencies that are reporting to the education vertical. So since July 1st, the education vertical has been extremely supportive. We've had a dynamic relationship, and they do have their own communication director, their own legislative director. They have attorneys, and I've been in touch with various people, meeting with them, sharing information about ISD, what we do, what our challenges are, how we handle purchasing, and a variety of other areas, and looking at where there are areas to change. We are a state agency, but then remembering that we are a school as well. So purchasing is one of those areas that has been a challenge. For example, when we try to purchase curriculum, then as time changed, things have become online subscriptions, and it makes it a bit more challenging to go through that purchasing process. So I have been educating the vertical about how ISD works. And the DOE is part of the education vertical, but I've been working close with them. I have regular meetings with a variety of people to continue that communication. It's been positive thus far. I want to make the school board aware that we have an additional service that we're going to be offering. It is Deaf Mentor Services and School Age Mentor Services, which is a great opportunity for us. The center, CDHHE, is not in statute for providing direct services any longer. So this is a role that we'll be taking on. There are two different areas. So there's Deaf Mentor Services that is already currently funded through the CDHHE. When we provide those services, we will be invoicing the center. So there will not be any budgetary impact from ISD for providing this service. There is already funding for that. The perk of this is providing that Deaf Mentor service is that our teachers our deaf teachers that are interested in providing that service can do so. Previously, because those services were housed under the Center for Deaf, Hard of Hearing Services, which was a different state agency, our employees couldn't work for two different agencies concurrently. So we have about 10 teachers that are currently interested. They'll get trained through the Sky High program. And some of those services will be provided in person or virtually, but those services will happen in late afternoon, evening times, not during the school day. So it's when they will have time available. And then there are community members as well that will get paid as third-party deaf mentors. So the perk of that is that now we are part of the CDHHE network. St. Joseph's School for the Deaf has been a part of that network. And now ISD also has a stance within that network. So it gives us an opportunity to continue to support those children from birth to 3 years of age. Our point person for the Deaf Mentor Services is Kendall Gonzalez. She's our family engagement specialist. And so she has been tasked with handling this program, working with the center, going through that referral process to get deaf mentors assigned, et cetera. And that service will begin from ISD's end on September 1st. So we've been going through that transition stage up until now. The other piece of that service is the student age mentors or school age mentors, excuse me. And the reason that's there is that when students age out at 3 years of age, typically there are no further services. The school age mentor services allow us to continue to support those students and those families, and that will be directly contracted through the public schools. So there is not funding being provided to us for that, but the schools will pay for those services. So there may be some consultative services that go along with that, again, provided via contract. It may be direct services once a month. So we're still looking at that menu of options, and we'll be using our staff carefully for these services. Obviously, we already have people assigned various duties. We won't be utilizing our classroom teachers for this. We've already had six to seven schools contact us interested in starting this process and this service. So Kendall is working with them on pricing and how we can provide those services. Again, both of these services will not have any budgetary impact on our budget. There'll be funds provided from other sources. So I just wanted to communicate with you all. I'm very excited about this addition to our services, and it makes us be more seen by the other school districts within the state. And so not just sharing our expertise here at the school, but amongst the state. And as budget allows, hopefully we'll be able to add staff that can provide these services because we do see it as a real need. Right now we have limited staff, so we'll continue to adjust that and monitor that moving forward.
For the school age services, so for the deaf mentor services, those referrals will come through the center. But the school age services, those referrals do not have to go through the center, correct? We can do a direct referral with the schools. And
yeah. The agreement with the center is any local school that contacts the center for those services, they will refer them to us. And then we will be having those school age mentor services placed on our website. So they don't have to go through the center. They will be able to get that information off our website, or they will be able to get that information from the center.
have we been able to send sort of maybe a press release to all of our LEAs to let them know that this is a service going forward, or are we just, okay, I want to.
Not as of yet. We're doing a soft launch at this point, just to get our feet up and running and making sure that we've got the contract pieces all settled, having them reviewed by our attorney. But after that soft launch, absolutely, we'll be advertising. We have, like I said, 6 or 7 schools that have already contacted the center to get services started. So those have been referred on to us. And we're just not ready to advertise yet. We want to make sure we have all the pieces in place so that we don't have to turn any schools away.
I personally think this is something that is going to be very well received by the schools. And so I think it's smart to do
Absolutely.
a soft launch because I think it's gonna go quick.
Definitely. Mhm.
Kim, in my past life, when I did consultation, I would be out in charter schools and obviously they didn't have, teachers of record for, students that are deaf and hard of hearing. So is that an example of how ISD would provide those consultation services?
Yes,
And would those services that are being provided by the staff here at School for the Deaf, would those services be provided after hours, after work hours?
well, it depends, honestly. We have one school district that contacted Kendall and they needed TOR services once a month, just 1 hour a month. So that is where we're looking at the logistics of that. I have a few staff that potentially could cover that 1 hour once a month. And it would be during the day and then we'd be billing for that time. We wouldn't be paying them that individual additional salary because they're already on work hours. But so it really will depend. Most of those services would happen during the day. Mentor services could happen in the evening. That would be a different scenario.
I really think this sounds exciting. Because I just know there were so many schools out there. And many of the schools were more rural, just didn't have access to those services. And you here at the School for the Deaf would be key to providing those services. So I'm excited to hear how this goes. And if you keep us posted too, I'd be interested how many contracts and who's asking for services, because I know for a time, the center could not keep up with it.
Absolutely. Mhm. And that is something long-term, not very far long-term, but a little more soon. We'll be looking at potentially being able to offer 1 or 2 teacher positions for that, but that's down the road. That's not anytime in the near future so that we can provide those services to the state. That is something I'm looking at down the road. Absolutely.
This is Andy. I assume that Kindle's going to be running both. You're going to be running both, or are those going to be separate for the Deaf Mentor services and the SAM services?
She'll be the point of contact for both of these, and then she'll be working closely with me and determining which ones we can handle, where we need to refer out. Really initially just looking at what we can handle logistically and the team who can cover those particular skills and areas.
Okay, good.
Great thought here, Kim. So when you do your soft launch, I'm assuming you're just looking at the local districts near you, but your goal is to expand it to the state.
Yes. At some time in the future, absolutely. We'll start local unless there's individual or districts that want to try to do the virtual approach. So we'll still be working on those logistics.
Okay. When you get ready to announce this, communicate with me so we can get it out to the field.
I will do. Absolutely. So the school age mentor services is something that will continue to grow. Right now, we're just looking at all the pieces of it and how it can work. And then as it grows, hopefully it'll be self-sustaining. And we'll be able to support a few positions by those funds. We do not want to be supporting that through our budget. So I'll be working closely with Jeremy to determine how we can get those teacher of the deaf positions. Contracts would then pay for those positions. So that will be something we'll be looking at as well, not just relying on the budget, but how we can use that income. And I'll continue to communicate with you how it goes moving forward.
Because many of the public schools, the LEAs, did such a model where they had people on staff that were devoted because the public schools, the LEAs, had to provide services to the private schools. And because, you know, they had so much they had to provide, that they actually had teachers contracted just for that, you know, to prove their minutes and services and those kinds of things. So it's doable.
Definitely. I appreciate your thoughts, and it helps me just consider other options, and we'll continue that dialogue. Over the last 2 months, I just want to continue to communicate where we stand with our budget. I'll be doing this on a monthly basis to make sure that we're staying on track. We are standing firm with this appropriation, $17.4 million. And the next slide will give you a bit more of where we stand from July 1st through August at this point. It's only been 2 months, but moving forward, I'll continue to analyze it by the quarter as well. So far, our total expenditures are almost $2.6 million. Jeremy and I are meeting quite frequently to monitor the expenditures. Of course, we still have 10 months to go, but right now I do feel like we're on track to meeting our targeted goal of $17.4 million. If you recall, well, July 1st, the fiscal year ends June 30th. The state business office and operations do tend to slow considerably, and then they halt until the new fiscal year opens up. So some of our invoices actually hit in the new fiscal year, even though they are from the prior fiscal year, from May and June. And we'll see that same thing, I'm sure, in the following years, that we have that pause, and then those invoices do hit in the new fiscal year. These costs that you see on the screen actually include from May and June, including the area that says interpreting costs. Those are from May and June. Since the new fiscal year, we have not been using any foreign language, or excuse me, any freelance interpreters. We do still have foreign language interpreters that we have to occasionally contract with. So we do have 6 interpreters on staff and the admins / interpreters that we're utilizing. Obviously, as you can see here, we've got some sports equipment, helmet, pads, those sorts of things that we've needed to purchase thus far. Those are part of those operating costs. Housekeeping on campus, we are still working on that, and I'm looking at how we can get those positions housed at ISD instead of a contract. And that's still ongoing. Hopefully before the end of the year, those will be in place. Again, just wanting to report where we stand. We are on track. If there's anything, an anomaly that arises, I'll make sure to communicate that with the board.
Kim, I know last time you and I talked, there were some opportunities that we were looking at for the trash, the cellular, and those kind of things. Have you guys found any solutions for those yet, or are those still things that you're still pursuing at this point?
With waste management, I know Jeremy is still working on that. We have contacted the state about that, but the state fair just finished up. So we're still looking towards more dialogue with them about the trash service. Anything you want to add, Jeremy?
Yeah, just to say that, yeah, those are the items that we're still working on.
Jeremy, can you step back?
We're still working on those. We're having conversations with other agencies like the State Fair. We've talked with IDOA about what an ongoing contract and RFQ for those trash services would look like. I know, Kelly, you had sent a vendor and they're willing to entertain a bid for those services. So once the time comes, we can put that information together to send to the state. We'll entertain those bids if that's necessary. Kim and I are reviewing the cellular costs. We've identified a reduced number of devices for campus, and so we'll be eliminating those lines, but also kind of planning for the future because of the way we're shifting personnel around campus. We see a future need for some of those lines. Most of them are around $20 a month for some of the more basic services. So we're going to probably keep those on the plan now so that we can utilize them down the road. And those, some of the, I think we discussed, but there'll be some duty phones that won't be assigned to an individual, but available to the staff that are on that shift. We did recently receive our new allotment of preventive maintenance dollars. I know IDOA presented those requests to the budget committee earlier this month. And then I believe it was Friday that those agencies got their allotment. So we still have some remaining funds from previous years that were kind of rolled forward to us by the budget agency. In addition, we did receive our $750,000 allotment for this year.
Thank you.
I believe by September and October, we'll have more clarity on some of these areas. We have reduced the phone bill at this point by half, and we're looking at companies that provide that service. So we're analyzing different areas to look for continued cost savings. That is it on the budget update. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask, but I'll just continue providing that update monthly. No questions?
I just wanted to make a quick statement. I really like the new format. It's much easier to read and follow. So thank you for that. I like it. Thank you.
Yes, we're trying to make it as simple as possible so that we can really track things. As I mentioned earlier, I recognize our staff, their flexibility, the changes in duties, the changes in shifts that they've been assigned. We've in the past had nurses 24/7, but now we have nurses just on the day shift. And we do have assigned individuals who are helping provide medications. Matt is one of those individuals that is ultimately doing that as well. And so that is just an example of how people are taking on additional duties, for example, in the evenings. We have 2 nurses on staff during the days from 6:30 in the morning to 3:45. There is an overlap. So that's nice. That has just started in the last 2 weeks. We have had some students that have gotten sick in the dorm, and our RAs and deans are assessing those situations and calling families. And of course, we know that we can access 911 if necessary, but we are managing. And again, I just appreciate the staff taking on additional duties. I know it is a bit of a change, but they're handling it. The next slide is information about some supervisory changes. Andy Alka was our high school principal, who has now become an IEP administrator. Annette Tavernese is now the principal. Marie Kellum White is the assistant principal. And Sebastian Ayano is a residential dean now. We had one dean that resigned this summer, and so he has filled in that gap. So those are some supervisory changes that have happened. We started the school year with 323 students. Yes, 323, and you can see how they're divided up within each department, ECE, we have 28, 116 in our elementary. Middle school is 6th, 7th, and 8th, so we have 86 students. And then we have 93 in our high school freshmen through senior. So, and of course, we have students that come and go, but as of last week, our enrollment was 323 students. This gives you a breakdown of where those students fall. As you can see, we've got 40 students in one of our classes, which is quite large. 2 classes in particular, when they hit high school, that's going to take some adjusting of our staff. Probably more middle school teachers will have to be moving up to high school. And this year in particular, we already have teachers that are doing crossover duties in both departments more than ever. But that gives us a good readiness for when those middle school students hit high school. And we do have just a bit more flexibility with those teachers, 6 through 12. Currently, we have 72 dorm students. This graph shows the age ranges. So kindergarten through 5th grade, we've got 15, middle school 14, and then high school 28. We have more boys and girls in the high school, but good numbers. Annually, you see our enrollment trends, and you can see that it fluctuates from year to year. The first day of school, starting in August, is the top row, and the second row is the final day of school enrollment. In 2022, we had 334 students, and then we had 341. And so you can see that it rises and falls just depending. We always really stay between 310 and 350. That seems to be our standard. This is the breakdown of our new students this year. Unfortunately, this isn't a new trend that we're seeing often when we have new students. They are delayed. They are not at grade level. So we're seeing that same trend here. And that is the general report from me. And if you don't have further questions, I will turn it over to the education leadership team. They will go through data in a variety of areas.
Hello. Hi, welcome. Good evening. Can you see me? Live stream okay?
Yeah, we're trying to make sure we're in line here. Good evening. I'm Amanda Probert, and I'm the elementary ECE principal.
Hi, I'm Annette Tavernese, and I'm the middle school and high school principal.
We're going to be summarizing the student data this evening.
We have some notes, so forgive me for going over, but I just don't want to miss anything important to share with you. First, we have an agenda. We're going to summarize some information and stats about our last year seniors, the graduates of 2025. And then we're going to expound on these different assessments. Fontes and Pinnell, our ASL assessment, iRead3 and iLearn, the NWEA, and our principal updates. I want to welcome our transition coordinator for this portion. Hello again. I'm always so proud to brag on our seniors. They all had such great plans after graduation. We have 2 transition specialists that work so hard with all of our students to make sure that they have a well planned out future. You know, we had a very small senior class last year, only 13 of them. 3 were academic honors, 8 were on Core 40 diploma track, and 3 were on an alternative diploma. So where did they go? This is a breakdown of each of them. 4 went to Gallaudet University, majoring in marine biology, accounting, public health, and exercise science. Other 4 went to Rochester Institute of Technology. 1 went to major in hospitality, veterinary services, digital arts, I believe, and there was 1 more. It's over there in my notes. Oh, and marketing. So 8 went to universities, 2 went to a community college at Ivy Tech, auto mechanic, and diesel truck driving in their training programs. 3 are working with vocational rehab services and our BDDS services as well. So that's where our 13 seniors are currently. Oh,
Could you expand upon BDDS?
yes, the Bureau of Developmental Disability Services. They offer free services for transportation, employment, housing, power of attorney services. So folks that have those exceptionalities of autism or other exceptionalities get qualified automatically for BDDS services. Any other questions? So all of our high school students, represents their diploma track currently. General diploma, the diploma is fading out right now in the state of Indiana, so we should not see that for the sophomore class is when that will be phased out. 14 on honors, 53 on core 40, 10 on general, and 19 on alternative track. So those students typically are in our school to work program. And that's a part of our transition plan for them. So that's intentional. Any questions? Okay, thanks. Thank you, Mimi. Okay, so I'm going to talk about student achievement data. So first we're going to discuss Fontes and Pinnell. This is a reading assessment using through K through 8th grade. And it's an assessment used as a tool for our students and our staff.
And if I could add, Fountas and Pinnell is a phenomenal program. It is very visual based. It is not phonics based, which is extremely beneficial for our students so that we can continue to track where our students' reading level is at. So we do read alouds with the students and we do multiple meanings. So if there is the word can, there are different signs that are used depending on the meaning of the word. So if I'm buying a can of food, we want to make sure that they're using the correct meaning. Even if they are using a sign for can, it does have a different sign that would be used.
And some of the words are fingerspelled so that we can identify if those are weak areas in our students. So it's a really excellent tool for our assessment so we can know what grading or what reading level they're on. And so, for example, if a student is in 7th grade, that should match their level of literacy.
And we do this assessment K through 8th grade.
Yes. So this is a chart of the reading levels that we use here. So you see from A to Z listed here, and the letters have more grades. They're early letters. So for instance, 1st grade, we go from 1. There's 6 letters that they can move up. So as their reading assessment, they can see that they're gaining those letters, but then it gets more difficult and more challenging to move up because there's less levels in between those areas of growth. As you can see here, there's only 3. So it becomes more difficult as you move up. So you see more of those letters within our smaller children. So elementary, and now we're going to move on to elementary and ECE data for Fontes and Pinnell.
Okay, so this gives you a glance at the whole. And And this is from last year. This is last year's data. We have 124 students from elementary school. So we had quite a bit of growth, as you can see. And then when you look at our K through 5, the first image shows all the students. The second image shows just our students that are deaf and hard of hearing with 2 additional eligibilities. So we were at 87 students for that have additional disabilities, and 95% of them did make growth. So only 5% of the students did not show growth. So this really validates that this is beneficial to our students, and especially for our students with additional disabilities, because we're seeing such growth in them.
I want to also add these additional disabilities or eligibilities can be autism, ADHD, SOI, speech and language impairment. That could be some examples of those. So again, middle school, the harder the level becomes, the harder it is to move up, like I explained before. So there's several students here who have already mastered, which would be that Z letter. 4% last year of students mastered another level. So that would be 7th grade of reading above. And then 83% showed that they had growth in their reading level. So again, this is overall for all students. So we have 16% that mastered that year, and then the other information on the slide. So it shows that the growth that our students have. And then this is a little bit more of a closer look at that. So again, eligibilities here, we still see students with 2+ additional eligibilities are still making gains with using Fountas and Pinnell with these levels. So we have 23% no growth, but we have already mastered and growth at these high percentages.
And some of these students, we just have to remember that they've come into the school new and they don't even have language at home. So what we always see is they have to develop that first language before we really start to see that growth in English.
And it can take 7 years to acquire a language. So by the time these students, no matter when they join, they are playing catch up. And again, if a student, they might even come in from other countries. They might come with absolutely no language. Like one of our students previously, Sarah, with the deaf scientist intern, she had no language. She's been here 6 years and you could see her language. So again, that shows that growth that our education offers here. So overall, elementary has 95% growth with their reading level, and middle school has 83% overall growth. Really good numbers for us. Question?
How often do you do the Fountas and Pinnell?
Great question. 3 times a year.
Yeah.
Fall, winter, and spring. And if they are close, then we would do some extra. So we want to get, that's an intervention strategy that we can explain a little bit more, but we want them to meet that next level if they're really close to moving up.
Yeah. Sorry, we know this is a bit awkward with the. So 3 times a year is accurate. And then teachers also do guided reading with the students on a daily basis every week. So what we've noticed is that the teachers will watch for that approaching a next level, and then they call in our literacy specialist to come in and do that additional assessment. So that's why we really say 3+.
And again, I want to emphasize, it gets harder and harder and more challenging. So, and they have to do inference questions. Those are more abstract than a concrete concept. So they have to really be able to understand that. So it's really quite challenging and impressive.
Yes.
Many of the LEAs also use Fountas and Pinnell. Do you find that your present levels of performance on your IEPs for students coming into the ISD, that they're reporting Fountas and Pinnell also?
this is Amanda. Not all schools do use it, so no, not always. But we always do an assessment anyways. If they happen to use Fountas and Pinnell, a lot of times there's inaccuracies, so we do the assessment anyways, but a lot of times we actually don't see those scores, no. The next assessment is our ASL assessment. This has just started the last couple of years. Deaf schools have partnered together to develop this assessment.
And again, this is a new assessment. So the students are getting used to it as well. They're used to the social ASL, and this is more academic ASL that we're assessing. So we're still working on it.
Also, with the Fountas and Pinnell reading levels, students, that meets the students where they are and continues to raise the bar. This assessment is just based on grade level. So the third grade level assessment is assessing the student right at that level. So if a student has just transitioned into ISD and they don't have those social ASL skills as of yet, they're definitely not going to show the growth that we would expect on this test as of yet, because it is based specifically on their grade level. So I just wanted you to keep that in mind, that when we have new students that come in, they may not even have ASL skills or language, but if they're a third grader, they get assessed at third grade level.
We use ASL comprehension assessments, and that includes that the students will watch a video one time, not over and over again. They have to watch a video once. They have to retain everything that's happening. And then the ASL specialist will ask questions and the students have to remember everything. So it initiates their critical thinking, and so that's part of the comprehension American Sign Language assessment.
And they're assessed in the fall and the spring. So for elementary, this is the whole group. 64% of our students are showing growth in their ASL comprehension from fall to spring. And then 25% already mastered that grade level. And then 11% did not show growth. So as I mentioned, when we look at that third grade level, if a student comes in, they may not be at that level of language yet. For elementary, we do have a challenge in this area. We recognize that. We only have one ASL teacher that services the whole school, and they don't see the students daily. And we know that our students would thrive with having more access to our ASL teacher. We currently have them on a rotation for specials. So they do 1 week of ASL, 1 week of PE, and 1 week of art. They should have ASL daily. The ultimate goal would be to have 2 ASL teachers in the department.
And for middle school, ideal, we do actually have 2 ASL teachers, and we have that year round. So middle school ASL is great, and our data actually shows that. And so we recognize that in elementary, they really do need an additional ASL teacher. So 57% showed mastery, 30 growth, and 32 showed mastery, and 11% was at no growth. For high school ASL, wow, right? Yes. An additional challenge, we have 1 ASL teacher in high school. And not all high school students take ASL. Only freshmen and honors diploma track is the heritage speaking class. And we follow foreign language credits for that. But again, not all high school students take that course. And so that is a challenge for us as well that we're looking at. And again, our high school kids, they have a little bit of an attitude, right? Today's generation is different. So those students, they take ASL assessments if they have the class, they take it more seriously. But if they don't have the ASL class, we pull them out of for an ASL assessment. They don't have a great attitude. You know, it's like, oh, we already do the NWEA. Goodness, we have to do another assessment. So we have to learn how to motivate our students to let them know that these are important and they show your progress. And so we're working on attitudes with assessments right now with those students.
And if I can chime in, right now, our ASL supports, our ASL teacher and ASL specialist, we have 5 staff total for the entire school. We used to have 2 ASL specialists, now we're down to 1. We only have 1 ASL teacher in elementary, 2 in middle school, and 1 in high school. And in reality, we should have 8 staff members serving the school in this area, specifically needing those 2
Right,
ASL
that's the goal.
specialists. So it is an area of need.
Any questions about the ASL assessment portion? Oh, sorry. Overall growth, 89% in elementary, 89% in middle school. And again, that's the ideal because we have 2 teachers year round, and that shows the proper setting and proper tools do make a difference. And we're at 66 growth with high school.
IREAD 3 is the next assessment. And this is our data from last year. Historically, this test was only offered to 3rd grade students. And then as of last year, the 2nd graders started taking it. It was mandated that they had to take it. And the new mandate is 2nd grade through 7th grade. So what we have is data from last year. Our 2nd graders who may have taken it, our 3rd graders, and then we do have some 4th graders that took it because we knew they were approaching mastery. But starting this year, 2nd through 5th will take it. And then next year we'll add 6th grade. And then in 2 years, the 7th grade will take it. So it will be 2nd through 7th in 2 years' time. Our literacy specialist, myself and Kim met with Melanie Hazelwood, and she is the director of the Literacy Center. And so we had a meeting this past summer with her, and we are partnering with them. Our literacy specialist, Lisa Shevland, will be working closely with them moving forward. There is a 2-year plan in place. So the meeting really focused on the science of reading, which is required now, but there are areas that we were looking at. So our elementary school had to choose our new reading curriculum. So we're partnering with the Literacy Center to look at the curriculum materials that will be beneficial to our students and which areas do not benefit our students. So Melanie was aware of those gaps, and we're working together to alleviate that. Again, the first graphic shows our 2nd graders, and then the 2nd graphic shows 3rd and 4th graders. So we're demonstrating 52% growth. And so that means that those students' scores are on the rise. And then our 3rd and 4th graders, we had 70% showing growth. And we have a bit more details on the upcoming slides. We were required to offer IREAD Summer School this past summer. We did offer it. 5 families signed up, and those were the only ones that did sign up. Out of those 5 students, 1 did pass after summer remediation. So we're looking at our plan for this next summer and trying to develop how many days we can offer that program. 2nd grade, they have a specific score that shows on track, and they don't show that for 3rd and 4th grade. Yes?
This is Anne. Last summer, how many days or weeks total was summer school?
It was 3 days. Yes, we were able to offer it 3 days last summer. Now we're looking at the possibility of offering a week or 2 weeks. There are some requirements that we need to adhere to. For example, the teachers must have so many hours of the Keys to Literacy training. And by 2027, they all must have that training. So the numbers that have that training will increase. Again, we offered it to all the families, all the students that fell in this group, and 5 signed up for it. So we are still providing interventions and class supports to continue to propel our students forward so that they can pass that iRead 3.
Andy is saying, and how did that work? If 5 students locally signed up, were they, did they stay at the dorms? Did they live far away?
Yes, because of budgetary impacts, the dorm was not able to be offered. We were only able to offer morning programming. They got a snack, the families brought them in, they got a break, and then the families picked them up around lunchtime. So that is something we'd like to consider, an all-day program, and then that case, we would love to be able to offer the residential program as well. That's something we're looking at.
Thank you.
Any more questions about iRead?
Do you know what the state average was for students passing iRead?
I do not know that, but I could look into that
I'd like,
and find it and bring it for the next meeting.
Yes.
I'd be glad to do that.
yeah, I would like to know, and even if you find it before, send out an email. I'd
Sure.
appreciate it.
Will do.
I have a few questions. I've been trying to synthesize all this, and some of this will go backwards a little bit, but what constitutes growth in each of these categories?
Or iRead or the other assessment?
Any and all. I'm curious, we're talking about growth, but, like in reading, in a lot of discussions I've been involved in over the years, we often talk about, how many grade levels or partial grade levels of reading growth they're achieving. And I don't see anything in the slides that speaks to the amount of growth. It's just a binary yes or no growth. Does that make sense?
For reading assessments, for example, if I'm in 7th grade and I'm in reading level K, I move up to L. But if I haven't met the 7th grade reading level, is Z. So that is considered growth. Even if they haven't met their grade level, they are still considered growing because their reading level might be at a 3rd grade level, but if they're making those gains, then we still consider that growth.
And so basically the growth represents progress. That's what we're seeing as progress towards working towards that level.
Okay, so it goes back to the chart with the letter levels.
That's correct.
With the grade
Oh,
equivalents.
excuse me, not for iRead. No, iRead, that the grade level equivalence is for Fountas and Pinnell. iRead results are here. So this is the Fountas and Pinnell that she was referring to.
Right. So what are the measures of growth in iRead?
Yeah, it's based on an increase in their score.
Right, but what I'm asking is it any increase in score, or I'm trying to go to the right slide here, let's see.
Yes.
So the red, yellow, and green. Is that on?
And I think,
There it is.
one of the things you're thinking about, and when we get into a little farther in, like NWEA, it talks about your projected growth. I don't believe Fontes and Pinnell has a, what your projected growth should be. I think it's just that they are showing that you are making growth on that one. But I think when we get back to NWEA, and I'm not sure, is there, I think it's almost kind of a pass fail, if I'm correct, for the,
Yes.
but they're showing that they make growth, but I think it's a pass fail.
Right, but at some point, isn't grade level growth important, especially when it comes to reading?
And I think we get there,
Am I getting ahead of us?
yeah, I think
Sorry.
we get there, back in the NWEA, when we go into those scores, that growth.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're fine.
One more question that takes us all the way back to the beginning. I've been thinking about the class of 2025 with the 13 seniors. I'm curious how that cohort changed over time. So can anybody speak to what the cohort was at its smallest and largest as it moved through ISD over the years, beginning with kindergarten?
Yes, that longitudinal data is what you're looking for. We've talked about that. And those seniors that just graduated, trying to look back over time, we can look at where they are. We do have that data from NWEA for elementary school, for example, third grade through high school. And so for iRead, for me, what's nice is the students can take it again if they don't pass in third grade. It used to be that they just went about their merry way, but now we'll get to see that longitudinal data with iRead as well. Especially when we consider that this is our students' second language. English is their second language. So as time goes on, we'll be able to have that longitudinal data with iRead. And again, there are so many factors that impact their growth, including the language that's used at home. So for the senior class specifically, how long they've been here, when they arrived, when they left, we could do further analysis to give you that information. If that's something that you're interested in, we can do that, give you that more in-depth information, that bigger picture.
Well, I apologize, Kim. That wasn't where I was going, although I appreciate your willingness to entertain that. I don't know how useful it is to look back in terms of scores and such. I think we need to be looking forward. What I was getting at was just the size of that cohort. In other words, that they ended with 13 seniors. At its largest, were there 20 students in that class, for example, when they were in the 5th grade? Or, you know, how did the size of that cohort or that class change over time? Was it always a small cohort?
At the time when that group was in elementary, there were 16 students. So as they moved through the years, they ended up with 13. So it's always been a smaller cohort. Originally, they did start with 16 students.
And were there any students in that cohort who left prior to their senior year, like immediately prior to their senior year or during their senior year?
No, it was before then.
Okay.
It was prior to.
Because what I'm getting at, and I don't think it's a problem here, but it's certainly been a problem throughout the state in a lot of school corporations, that students who are not on track to earn a diploma are transferred to homeschooling, and they aren't counted in the cohort. They aren't counted against the school.
Mhm. I understand that. Mhm.
Okay, finish I read. Now we're going to move on to I learn. That's another assessment required by the state, 3rd grade, 8th grade, and some high school biology. But we're going to focus on the 3rd grade or the 8th grade. Again, I learn is a fixed test. So that means if I'm in 7th grade and my reading level's at a 3rd grade, my answers are going to reflect that. They're not going to be at a 7th grade level necessarily. So how, a lot of our students aren't necessarily on grade level. If they're having challenges and catching up, that's going to be reflected on their scores. Also, some teachers can sign the questions if they have 7 students in one class and they all require those English questions to be signed. The teachers can't be in 7 places at one time. So again, we're doing our best. Our students are doing their best. This chart will show you, we're focusing on DHH eligibility only, and then the next slide is going to show you the DHH eligibility in addition to another one. Okay, so we're going to start there. This is above grade level, at proficiency, and approaching a proficiency. Amanda is going to explain elementary, and I'll explain middle school.
Yes, and then we'll expand a bit more on some of this data. So this slide represents those students that are deaf with additional at least 2 or more eligibilities. This is the English language arts portion.
Again, you can see sorry about that. Go ahead.
Did you want me to move forward a slide? Okay.
Sorry, again, our DHH data, deaf and hard of hearing eligibility. We have what you can see here, these columns. We have 13 students out of 38 that are DHH only, and 3 out of those are above. 5 out of 13 are on grade level or at proficiency, and 2 out of 13 are approaching proficiency. So 10 out of 13 are almost at grade level. So this is a snapshot of that. And then here is the data with 2 additional eligibilities. They are approaching proficiency that you can see here. And again, they're not on grade level, but even with those additional eligibilities and challenges, they are still able to make progress and approach proficiency. This is the state average and ISD's average. Again, we have to look at the overall picture here. We're not just looking at one particular type of student, we have to look at eligibilities. So 154 students from 3rd to 8th grade. That's what the percentage is based off of. Special education for the state is 15%. For ISD overall, it's 10%. But if you break that apart as only DHH eligibility, it's 21%. So you see that gain there. For math, for the state, for special education, we're at 17%. And then overall in ISD, we're at 8%. With the DHH eligibility only, we're at 19%.
You have a responsibility to educate the whole child. And
Yes, absolutely.
do you have this data for each grade level for all third graders here at ISD. I would like to see that.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Right here. Third grade. DHH only. So we
But-
have 23 students in third grade.
But the DHH students and those with the disabilities,
And it's right here on this slide.
but together, both together.
We have them together, but for this purpose of this meeting, we separated it into those two different categories, but we can definitely share that data with you because we have it.
I want to see it.
And it says it right here, 10% overall for ISD.
Yeah, I want to see it. Yeah, I want to see all the students together because the state doesn't differentiate a student with a disability and whether they have they can report up to 5 other disabilities. They report every student with a disability. So they don't separate it out as 1 disabilities, 2 disabilities, 3 disabilities. And I think it's important that ISD does the same thing.
Thank you.
I have a question. So you don't have any students take the alternate assessment?
Elementary, no, but in high school, we do. They can take that, middle school and high school can take the IAM. We have 13 middle school students that took the IAM standardized test. I was just confirming with my assistant principal.
Okay, can you provide that information next meeting? And then
Sure.
on your diplomas, you have 2 listed as alternative. Is that in reference to the alternative diploma? Or what?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So Lucy, maybe this is where you were going and I didn't quite understand, but this has come up before when we've looked at data. Why are we comparing ISD to the special ed population instead of the overall student population?
The gen ed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The general, general
Yeah, and
education
we-
population.
And
But hasn't that come up before?
yes, and we've asked, I mean, in the past, we've also asked for what the whole gen ed population got and then students with disabilities.
Right.
Because the state reports that also.
Right, but why do we continue to compare the ISD student population to the special ed population?
Because being a student with a DHH, deaf and hard of hearing, is considered a disability. DHH is a disability, just like blind and low vision.
I get that, but I don't necessarily think that that on its own should mean the comparison is to the special ed population.
Ed, there are also students in the LEAs that are identified deaf and hard of hearing, receiving services from the LEA. Interpreters, for example, when I was a director, I had 18 interpreters servicing 9 school districts, and I had students that they have to report primary disability. It's a state and federal requirement. And they would report as deaf and hard of hearing. And secondary, they could be learning disability, they could have speech language impairment. And the state will, take up to 5 disability categories. I think that's what the current IEP. So when the state reports, Nancy's here, they, lump it all under students with disabilities as their primary. So for example, a student who is identified with a speech and language impairment, speech and language, it could be articulation, it could be a receptive, it could be a language issue. That is their primary disability, and they are identified as a student with a disability, and they have an IEP. And through the IEP, they get special services, which is speech and language services, and they can also get accommodations for iLearn and the different state assessments. Been in place a long time.
No, I get that. We're lumping all disabilities together though. And
Back, years back, probably 2000, 1998, the state did provide a breakout of learning disabilities across the state, deaf and hard of hearing across the state, and they do just primary disability. And we've had that data, but they don't do it anymore.
Right.
Nancy, can you speak in the microphone?
Sorry. We collect that data through results-driven accountability. We look at iLearn growth, and we also look at iSprout, which is for our early childhood. And then we look at the alternate assessment as well.
And that results-driven accountability, RDA, I know we've talked in previous meetings. ISD is not held accountable to that because the LEAs own the child and they own the IEP. And so those scores of accountability all go back to the local districts. And based on lack of growth, they can they can get intense intervention and they can lose their federal funding. And I know in previous meetings, I've talked about this because there is talk at the state of having the RDA have it held ISD, because the education is here to have the scores. ISD is held accountable to those scores because the education is here. And that was changed when State Director Becky Bowman was in place. She changed it so that the LEAs are held accountable for those IEPs. So that's why the local school districts they're responsible to make sure that the IEPs are completed and they're done here at ISD, and ISD is providing those services. It gets complicated, and funding is tied to it back at the school district.
yeah, I appreciate all the information. I know this has come up a number of times. I'm just saying that it seems like we're doing students a disservice when we lump everybody together when measuring student achievement.
I hear you. I mean, that's why so much of also what ISD tracks, we want to see that monthly growth, but ISD can, identify a student. Obviously, we can't do it in this meeting, but, they'll have all that place on that one student. And that's how they can monitor their tiers of intervention. So
Well,
I wish it was, I've, it's been like this for a long time. I hear you. I really hear you. I hear you.
thank you.
Okay, now we're going to move on to NWEA. That is a different type of assessment for our students. And this is adaptive. So we can actually, it aligns with the students' levels. So this is the math NWEA from last school year.
For our second grade students, we'll actually cover each grade level for NWA. We have 24 students, and then we do have it broken out into our deaf, hard of hearing eligibilities, and then those with additional eligibilities or 2+. So the testing does look at the score, and we had 3 students that met. So there's a projected growth that the test really identifies. So we had 5 students total in this particular cohort. And in this cohort, we had some that met their growth and some did not. But overall, when we look at the total score, we saw a lot of growth in math, and some made more growth in reading than math. But overall, all the students did make progress.
And growth can be anywhere from 1 to 20 points. It just depends on the students' levels.
And the predicted growth is not standardized.
No.
The test has that established.
And I think this is where you were going with, are they making projected growth? Is this what we wanted, the growth that we wanted to them to make, or that they needed to be making? And so that's where I think that this information is always, for me, very valuable to make sure that we're making that projected growth, not that we're just earning 1 more point than we did the last time, because they might have just answered something correctly that they didn't answer last time, but on a guess, but the projected growth, I think, is the biggest impact.
I also want to add that we provide this assessment 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring. So we are going to look at the growth over those 3 times the students have taken this assessment. This is an example of 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade,
So maybe my math, maybe I've got a math impairment, I don't know, but I'm looking at this and I see 13 for the DHH group. And then below it, I see 5
5
met their
met.
projected growth, and then 3 had growth.
Correct.
Then what about those other students? They did not make growth, Amanda's saying.
Right,
Okay.
thank you.
Got it. Yes, and if they didn't make growth, it may be that they did stagnated, or they may have even decreased in their score potentially.
And we can see the impact, some kiddos, depends on the day, their mood. We'll discuss a little bit more about that later. This is a capture of 8th grade. And now here's the NWEA reading assessment. And I want to emphasize that these teachers that are administrating this assessment, they do not sign any of the English on these assessments. This is a capture of 2nd grade, 3rd grade, All 7 met their projected growth here. This is 4th grade. 5th grade. 6th grade. 7th. And then here's 8th.
So this is a snapshot for the school year for our elementary students for ELA. We had 41% that met their projected growth, and then 43% made growth. So total growth for our elementary department was 84%. Then for math, 50% of them met their projected growth, 22% made growth, and then overall it was 72% growth. And then we'll go on to, we're looking at math and how we can provide additional supports for our students in that area. So that is something that we'll expand on a bit more here soon.
Here's the middle school results. 45% met their growth, 29% made growth, and altogether 74% of our students for middle school had growth in their English and language arts and math. 58 had met their growth, 20% grew, and then we have a total growth of 78%. Now we're going to explain a little bit more about our principal goals, about our intervention plans for this year. We're going to talk about what curriculum we're using currently. We're going to explain our multi-tier system of supports, targeted interventions, and school-wide preparations. As a principal for our designated areas. Again, like Kim explained previously, the budget cuts have impacted our duties. Before we had more supports in place. And now those support staff are back to the classroom. And that is impacting our supports for our teachers. But we're doing great so far. We're being creative. We're thinking out of the box. And we have a wonderful group of people. And we've been collaborative. And it's been amazing. So I want to really tip our hats off to our staff.
Yes, and I'd like to emphasize our students are learning, our teachers are presenting what they need to, and the kids are learning.
You want to do elementary?
Sure. For elementary, our curriculum team includes myself, Laura Hill, who is our assistant principal, Lisa Shevland, who is our literacy specialist, and also Kim Kaus, the superintendent. So that is the current curriculum team. So we do work closely together.
Previously, we had a curriculum specialist. However, that specialist had to go back into our classrooms, and assistant principals are the folks that have more duties now to oversee curriculum. Middle school and high school, we lost the curriculum, the literacy specialist. Now it's back in the classroom, but afternoons we're doing assessments. So that is a challenge for us, but we're making it work. Maria Callum White is our assistant principal. Mimi Fetzer that you met earlier, transition and guidance counselor, and of course Kim Kaus is our superintendent. And these are our support team. Again, we have a phenomenal group of staff. We have assistant principals that are taking on more duties, as previously said, observing teachers, supporting our staff, helping with materials, and making sure that the teachers have what they need to educate our children, and also monitoring progress, making sure that testing is running properly. Our education technology specialist does digital subscriptions with our curriculum and our technology equipment. Our curriculum office is not, again, we don't have a specialist anymore. So they're just handling the inventory and then also helping monitor and track student information via Skyward platform. And Mimi, our transition coordinator with her fantastic team, is also a part of this support system. And before we had 2 ASL specialists, now we're down to 1. Previously, we had 3 speech therapists, and now we're down to 2. So again, we have a small number of staff, but we always make it.
So you're going to see our core curriculum that we're using in each department. So for bilingual arts, language arts, we just have been in the process of ordering our new reading curriculum. When we started that last year, we're still in the middle of that. But these listed materials are what we are currently using. So finger spelling our way to reading is something we're really excited about. The Reading Literacy Center recognized that this is a good alternative to the phonics-based instruction. So our kindergarten through 2nd grade teachers, including our language supports teachers, got 8 hours of training 2 weeks ago to start utilizing that curriculum. So we're just waiting for that to arrive, and hopefully it will arrive prior to winter so we can get started on that. It helps develop our students' finger spelling skills. And then the others are listed here for the other content areas.
Middle school, our core curriculum is shown here. Study Sync by McGraw-Hill, Science by McGraw, and we just usually use Savas or McGraw. And this is our high school curriculum. There's more courses of what we offer, obviously. We use math completely for Savas for math, and McGraw-Hill for social studies, and economics, government for our seniors. That is a requirement per the DOE, and our health curriculum here that you can see. This is a little bit about our multi-tier system of support.
So this is listed here because there's been a transition from the Indiana IEP to Power School. That happened this summer. So our MTSS system is going through some restructuring for a variety of reasons, really. Some staff actually have gone back to the classroom who previously were a part of this team. So we're assessing that new team. Our literacy specialist has additional duties, both in elementary and in the middle school. They've gone back to the classroom. So they used to actually coordinate our MTSS team. So we are fortunate enough to have 2 school psychologists currently. So they are running our MTSS teams, and they work closely with the principals in that. So we have had a variety of meetings, setting up our system and looking at how we're going to structure everything. We still maintain that same goal, is providing supports and interventions for our students and making sure that we're capturing those students early when they aren't making progress and providing the supports needed. So this first level shows school-wide supports. Tier 2 is targeted supports, and then Tier 3 is intensive support. Overall, the MTSS team reviews the data, the student data. We have a variety of areas that we look at. We make sure that our students are progressing, and if they are regressing, we address those concerns as a team and provide supports and interventions. So Tier 1, 2, and 3 are the intervention approaches that we take. And then we have action plans. We have team meetings, staffings with families. We have additional support staff services that can be provided, and additional remediation and intensive strategies that we can provide. So if a student is struggling with reading, they may get additional guided reading within the classroom. They could get tutoring and a variety of other things to support them. Now, focusing on some examples of targeted intervention. This just gives a few examples of what these interventions look like. It is not a comprehensive list. Is listed here. And as I mentioned, we're really excited to be able to utilize finger spelling our way. That's going to be one of our primary supports. And then we also do have writing workshops that we provide the students to help improve their skills. We also do look at the good cause exemption for iRead for those students that may not pass. If they don't pass in third grade, we do have a case conference, review their goals to determine whether or not they need to be retained or if we have those systems of support in place for them to continue on to the next grade level. With guided reading, we do that on a daily basis with our students. With our older aged students, they get 30 minutes, or there may be a combined group of 2 students. They work on alternating days depending on how that's laid out within the classroom. So it used to be prior to the budget cuts, we would have 6 to 8 students. So if you're teaching 8 students in the classroom, you'd see 2 students per day for that guided reading. And then we would add additional supports for those that were struggling, and they would join another group. But now we do have these challenges. We're starting out with a larger class size. So we're still looking at how we can provide those supports and how we can adjust that current system. There's obviously tutoring is available, working with small groups. We have our paraprofessionals support certain students, and then our teacher can really hone in on those particular skills that are needed growth in. And then our language literacy support is typically for 6 weeks. So we have a developmental tool that we use to apply with our teacher then can use it in the classroom. So our literacy specialist may pull them out. It depends on the student 3 times a year for 6-week sessions where they really push in that certain area, and then they transition back to the classroom for that continued support. So for elementary, we do still have our literacy specialist. We're thrilled that they're currently collaborating with the Literacy Center at the DOE.
You ladies might not be able to answer this question. Sorry. When you were talking about the fingerspelling curriculum, I believe you said that you're hoping to get it by this winter. And so I would like to know what the what is the challenges with getting this curriculum? Is it something that we just ordered late, or is it a challenge in receiving the curriculum? Or I guess I want to make sure that we're doing everything in our power to make sure that you guys have all the resources that we can get you. And so how can we help support that, and what is the holdup there?
Yes, Kim, did you want to address? Specifically with the fingerspelling, our way to reading curriculum, the company we're working with does not allow the school to order materials until they have received this training. So that was a challenge. We tried to get the materials ordered prior to the training, but they would not let us do that until after the training was done. The second piece of that, so that doesn't help us as a state school. We all know that that really extends the timeline. And I have spent so much time and energy, and this is something I'm going to continue to address with the educational vertical because it is a huge concern for us. This purchasing process, ordering materials does impact us in how quickly we get things. So sometimes it can take several months, truly. And that company in this case didn't really help. We tried to convince them to let us order materials, and that was just something that they would not budge on. So hopefully that answers your question. It is something that, yes, I would like to work closely with the school board and the education vertical to see how we can improve this. And it's not just curriculum, it goes to food purchasing. It impacts various areas of the school. And it really is truly ridiculous, the amount of time we have to wait to go through that process.
Hello. Okay, I'm back. Andy's saying it's my fault.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Of course it was Andy. And he did it to me. Cut me off.
This is Anne. So they required the training. And how many days was it? How many staff were trained on the required to do that before you were able to purchase the curriculum?
It was 2.5 days of training, but it was 4 hours each because it was a virtual session. So it happened 2 weeks ago. They did it in the afternoon on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. I believe it was all elementary. There were 12 teachers that were trained. So then we immediately ordered it. I've been working closely with the business office and Jeremy to process that as quickly as we could. Does that answer your question?
Yes. And so now that you're finished and the staff are trained, how long before we get that curriculum? Are we waiting for the money to purchase it? Or the process? Or the RFP request? Bidding?
Well, okay, so just trying to give you an example. If the company is already registered as a state vendor with the state, then that helps. Typically, they're not. This company specializes in deaf, hard of hearing programming, so they're definitely not a vendor. So we have to do that first. That's the first step. Then the next step is we get a quote. No, we're not to the invoice stage. We have to get a quote. We have to send that in with justification as to why we want to purchase the materials. Once we get that approval, then we go through the purchase request or we get a purchase order number and then we get an invoice. So it can take, goodness, I'm thinking, and again, actually, some companies may expedite. They get registered with the state very quickly. If a company themselves takes a long time to register, that prolongs the process. This particular company did it very quickly. And a lot of companies aren't willing to become state vendors because it is such a lengthy process. If they're only, gaining a small amount of revenue from us, it may not be worth their time. So it can go a 3-month, 4-month process easily, sometimes longer.
Wow, Andy's saying.
Jeremy, did you have anything you wanted to add to that? Did I have a good description of that timeline?
Kim summarized it pretty well. Various stages of that process take 30 to 45 days each. The registration piece, us getting the procurement documents in order, getting that submitted for a purchase order, then submitting the purchase order. We're running into things where now they mentioned that a lot of the curriculum is going digital. In the past, we were able to order books. And that's a much simpler process than subscribing to a service that is now curriculum. Something we're seeing now is a company will provide a quote, we'll get them registered. We will get the purchase order submitted to them and say, hey, we're ready to order this. And they say, oh, we need you to sign these terms and conditions before you can purchase the software or subscribe to the software. Well, a lot of those terms and conditions, we as a state agency are not allowed to sign. Specifically, they'll say that the contract or the agreement is being governed by the laws of another state, which obviously we can't do. So that's one of the things we're going to be addressing with the vertical, talking with IDOA. I know that there's new leadership there and they're trying to revamp the state purchasing process. So looking at ways that us specifically as a school may be able to carve out exemptions or set up outside processes to smooth those things out for us. So we work through them as they come along. We don't really fit inside a lot of the other state purchasing because we don't buy the same thing that other state agencies. We're one of 3 agencies, I think, that purchase curriculum in the state. One of only a handful that order food. A lot of the things we order, it's companies that have never done business with the state before, like Kim said. So there's a lot of hurdles to that. Over time, we work out relationships with those vendors and it becomes a lot easier. But when there's new opportunities like the curriculum they're talking about now, kind of start from scratch. So.
And did that answer your question?
Just
if you would keep us posted, if there are things, I'm happy to help make phone calls or whatever, I can do, to help, in any way possible to make sure that we are getting you guys, every resource that we have available and making sure that we can do that for you guys.
Absolutely, will do.
So this is a little bit more about our academic interventions. We have tutoring, student centers, ASL groups. Some students come in here with very little language, and so those are really nice as the students can gain a foundation of American Sign Language within those groups, and then they can acquire a lot more easily. We have bilingual instruction. We have language support classrooms where we provide one-on-one attention to students, and then we have the test prep, and Amanda will expound on that. And then we also have academic intervention plan, our AIP, that helps monitor our students' grades every week, making sure that that data is on track. Regarding social behavior, some interventions, sometimes behaviors impact academics and sometimes it's vice versa. And so it's critical to make sure that our students are here and ready to learn. So with PBIS, the positive behavior interventions, the social emotional learning, our behavioral specialists meet with groups of students in classroom and outside of classroom to focus on those social and emotional learning plans. And then we also have BIPs or behavioral intervention plans as well.
This is not for all grades, but I've just selected one as a snapshot so you can get an idea of what our schedule looks like. With the budget cuts, it has really impacted us because we have one lunch period for all of elementary. It used to be that we could divide up the grades a little more when we had two cafeterias. Our ECE program, they eat in the cafeteria, but now first through fifth all walk over to Brown Cafeteria, which is typically been our middle school, high school cafeteria. So they walk over there daily. You see we've had to input a transition time for that walk. So they leave the classroom and it is a little bit of a hike. In addition to that time for washing their hands and going to the restroom. So we have lost 10 minutes of instructional time prior to lunch. And mostly that's impacted the amount of time allotted for social studies and science. So we have that transition time built in, and I just want to commend our ECE and elementary teachers the last week and this week. They usually have prep time when the students go to the cafeteria, but over the last 2 weeks, they have been walking with the students to the new cafeteria because it is such a transition, new experience for them. Next week, we are hoping we can release those teachers from that support, and we'll be able to rotate that duty amongst the professionals. So I'm so thankful to our elementary staff for all they've given up to support our kids and making sure they get where they need to be for lunch. And then we have a 5-minute transition coming back to recess time. But again, we have made it work. It's going okay. We're doing it and we're still meeting the minimum required hours for instruction for 1st through 5th grade. It's 5 hours and we are still getting that in without any problems. We do sometimes have to be creative with what we have and what we can do, and we're doing so. At 225, you see we have test prep. We're excited about instituting that. That is new this year. We do recognize that our students' testing skills aren't where they need to be. So this is just a way to propel them and get them ready for that. So Monday through Thursday, they do have that time to work on test prep. It is 30 minutes. Those test taking strategy skills and really just getting them ready to take the test and knowing how to answer questions. And it's not really about the content, but when you watch something in ASL and respond, it doesn't just cover that. It covers different pieces of the test process. So we're excited about that. Thursdays and Fridays, Monday through Thursday and Fridays are similar. Just the end of the day is where there's a bit of a cut because we do excuse early. But so far things are going well. And the teachers are still teaching and our students are still learning. So it's been a good first week and a half.
With that, this is middle school and high school. We also had to change their lunchtime. And again, we're meeting requirements for the minutes, 6 hours of instruction time within this allotted schedule. We have Oriole time. And they do test prep in elementary and we do Oriole time, which is remediation, groups based on data, and the teachers can provide more intervention with that specific group. And we mix up the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders based on the data. So we work together to develop that prep ideas and those plans. All of our teams look together and then we can apply to elementary, middle school, and high school. This is high school. And we have the Oriole time. Another example here, something new this year that we're trying. Recently and from the past, a lot of students might know their level and sometimes, they don't know their level. They might be at 3rd grade level at 8th grade and they don't necessarily fully comprehend that. And so we want to work on student accountability. So every teacher is going to have this NWEA tracker. And we'll have an Fontes and Pinnell tracker as well. But the students are going to sit and meet with the students and say, hey, what's your level? What's your score? What's your score equivalent to? What eligibilities do you have? How does ADHD impact your learning? So that the students can actually comprehend why these strategies are so important. We want the students to become more independent with those strategies and coping skills themselves. And I think that this is going to be a huge benefit for the comprehension level of our students. This is going to be divided up into what their spring score is, what their grade equivalent is, and if they feel good or if they feel not so great. Again, kids are different. They're very much, they're not intrinsically motivated. They're externally motivated. And again, our kids are different today, so we have to adapt to what works for them. So this goes into their fall scores, winter goals, their writing scores and writing goals, and that carries over each year. So the students can track their own growth. That's one example of what we're trying to do this year.
Sorry. Will that be available in their Skyward for their parents to also be able to see and track? And as a parent, I wouldn't want to see it. So, I mean, I guess it's
Sure, I understand. That's a great idea. We can definitely add that into Skyward. So thank you for that suggestion, Kelly. Again, the teachers are going to be communicating with the families, and often the teachers will say, hey, your child's are doing great. They increased 13 points. They already do this, but this is a visual. And I think it's a great idea to make sure that the parents are getting eyes on this. And again, internal motivation for our students. Trying to figure out, how do we motivate these kiddos these days? How do we improve their scores? So the staff, we all volunteer to do a dunk tank. And our students were thrilled. And some of the students were really motivated. And again, like Amanda mentioned, almost all the students made growth, either in their English and language arts or their math. They made growth, and growth is growth. They were able to, they made growth and they threw balls at us. Said, did you get dunked, Amanda? I know I did. I think some of the people in the audience got dumped too. So Kim, I don't think Kim did. But maybe next year you guys are welcome to join us, all you people on the school board.
But Kim did throw a ball to see if she could dump somebody.
So we want to maintain different ways to motivate our students. And not only externally, but internally. We want them to feel good about themselves and take ownership of their learning because we know that builds character and responsibility. So that's something that we're doing this year.
So PLC is our professional learning community time. And I do want to emphasize that we as a school do have a time slotted for PLC, but that doesn't mean that we get to do the professional learning community every Friday. Sometimes the teachers are allowed to do some work in the classroom. Other times we do have professional develop scheduled. So as you can see here, we have our elementary and middle school, high school schedules. This goes through November. So each of these times is considered a PLC, but not all of them are professional development opportunities. So we've got some that are working in the classroom. Next week, we have an opportunity for our families to meet the teacher and the principals. We did do that last week with our elementary. We weren't able to offer an open house this year. So Annette and I both agreed this went really well. While the students were still in school, the families came in and got an update from me as the principal. And then when school was out, the families were able to meet their students and go meet the teachers. So it really was positive. I think there were a lot of positive comments. We had over 50 families in the elementary and the ECE department that came, which we thought were great numbers. It was really nice that the teachers already had that first week to connect with the students before they connected with the families. So we were very optimistic about how this went. These two other areas here, those are actual professional development opportunities. There's one here as well.
And again, the school psychologist support team provides PLCs to our staff too regarding strategies with eligibilities like autism. How do you teach children with autism, specific learning disabilities, SLD? So we do incorporate that within our PLCs. So working with a person that has autism, that's one of our PLCs. Our staff works together within our internal team, in our department and school-wide. So that's how PLCs are scheduled. So as we wrap up, Amanda and I, it's her second year as principal, it's my first year. We're very motivated and we have goals for ourselves and our school. Of course, we want our students to learn and thrive continuously. And we want to support our teachers and staff. We want to recognize the challenging of our budgets and how it's impacting us. And our staff, we've all come together and it's been incredible since the first day of school. I have goosebumps at how amazing that they've all come through. And I'm really thankful for our team. And I want to be there to support them. And then of course, we have a goal to increase literacy and mathematics as well for our students.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Sorry, that was a long one.
Lucy, ladies, I think you did a great job on this presentation, and I appreciate your enthusiasm, and I really think you have a great handle on what you're doing. Thank you. I was wondering.
Thank you, Lucy. I appreciate that.
You're well. Thank you. Yes, it's well deserved. I was wondering if we could have the board, if we could have that areas of focus, because I'd like to have that with me at meetings as you talk about your tiered levels of intervention.
I can get that to you, sure.
And your instruction and all that kind of thing. So I really appreciate it. And I would, just so that we're comparing apples to apples, I would like to see third grade, fourth all together. because your scores, when they all go back to the local school districts and they're held accountable and their funds are based on it. And they don't either report one disability to everybody by law does primary disability. And I'm assuming here, all students come with the label deaf and hard of hearing. I'm assuming that's my primary disability. You may have a few others, but the primary.
Most are.
And so the state's not reporting, they're just reporting all students together. And so it's a better way, for us to evaluate it, and that's how the local school districts, they're held accountable for that also. So, and then Kim had said this, or Kelly had said this earlier, but maybe it's not tonight, but think, and at the next board meeting, what does this school board need to do for you? How do we support you to improve your academic data? It's the 2 goals you ladies have for yourself, but how do we help you with those kinds of things? And, I heard loud and clear that you don't, have enough literacy specialists, ASL specialists. And, right now we're trying with the budgetary, but beyond that, curriculum, what can we do? What can we go search for you and help you with? I know we're committed to that, and we'll help you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Right now, teachers and staff, we need to support them the most. That's where our focus is.
Thank you. This is Andy. I would like to piggyback on her comment. I really appreciate this data and how you separated the 2 different eligibilities with DHH and the additional. In the past, it was really ambiguous. There was a lot of assumptions about teachers failing and not really doing their jobs. But there's so many challenges that our teachers face with limited resources. And now there's a budget crisis and budget cuts. And so showing the difference of DHH eligibility versus the other exceptionalities, maybe even needing more resources. I really like the breakdown of both of those. And it shows that we really need to advocate for some more resources.
Thank you both. And yes, we can definitely do both, Andy. You're asking for us to have, the whole group, but also you liked seeing that division. And so we can bring back some of that iLearn data next month and keep both the breakdown, but then the whole group as well. And then those additional results. We'll make sure that I get that next month. Looking at assessments in math, we see there are some areas for improvement in specific skills. And the challenge, of course, is where we need to identify those additional resources, supplemental resources. We already have that core curriculum, but what supplemental materials can we use? What interventions can we use? And further discussion with the DOE on looking at that, because we may have a student that is reading at a very different level than their grade level. So I will continue to communicate with the board and work with you about support you can provide. I appreciate it. And again, I'm just so proud of our staff and all divisions, from operations, student affairs to education, how everyone has come together to get ready for this school year. And they do it all for the students. And I appreciate the community and the family support as well. We're off to a good start. And I will continue to share more updates in the upcoming months. And you'll get information about purchasing and resources and budgetary updates as well. But you can anticipate very similar reporting moving forward. And that concludes my superintendent's report this evening.
Thank you, Kim. I know this meeting is going quite a bit longer than our normal meetings, but I want to thank you all for your patience. But we all agree that the data is very important. We are a school and we are here to educate the children and want to make sure that we're giving every resources available to our students. And so I appreciate the data. Thank you. With that, we have no new business at this point. And so we are at public comments. It looks like Jennifer, you are our first one.
Can you all see me okay? To the school board members, superintendent, Kim Kaus, ISD staff, students, families, and community, I want to take a moment to express both my gratitude and a challenge. First, my gratitude. I want to thank Ann Rifle and Andy Leffler. You have been on the sidelines cheering for us consistently at community events, supporting our students actively, encouraging us, and been role models for them to look up to. Thank you for your continued support. It does not go unnoticed. To Superintendent Kaus, I wish you the very best. And I see you have countless hours of data and decisions and dedication that you carry. And I want to thank you for your commitment to the school. And to the whole school board, I want to say, the school board members, I appreciate. I know being here isn't easy. I appreciate your responsibility that you carry as well. But I also want to be honest with you. Our lived experience as the deaf community are not fully seen or valued. Some of the comments are dismissed and our voices seem optional rather than essential. This school is not just a school. It's a part of our community and the future of our children. And I don't expect perfection, not at all. But what I do expect is for you to be present, engaged, and give effort so that we can see you on the sidelines as well. In the halls, that's most important, making an actual effort to understand our language and culture. Authority is not earned by a position alone. It is earned by participation and a connection. And my words tonight are not about division, but about respect and accountability. We all share the same goal to make sure that ISD thrives. And that requires all of us, including the administration, family, communities, and the board, to work together with our eyes open and our hands open and our hearts open. Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like next we have Kim.
It was an honor that you held that for Jennifer. Would you hold mine as well? Thank you. I will scroll. Hello, everyone. Thank you to the board chair, and thank you to the board members and Superintendent Kaus, and thank you to the community members as well. I really do want to thank you for your diligent work. I've been thinking as I've attended the board meetings over the past several months, and I want to acknowledge Ms. Friedy's comment from the last meeting. I do feel her message was powerful, as it was this evening again. I was really, really disappointed to see that it was not acknowledged and accepted by certain board members. That her words that were shared, they really made me think. And I see the difference in perspective. There's the perspective of the board members and the perspective of the ISD community. And I see that vast difference. A piece I'd like to clarify when we think about the education piece. A vital perspective today and a discussion that is seen in this community is phonocentrism. Phonocentrism was a term created by a philosopher, Jacques Derrida, and then further extended by Dr. Dirksen Bauman, who was a professor and he could hear. He was a hearing individual who worked in the Deaf Studies Department at Gallaudet University. That term refers to that perspective that speech is more superior than any other form of communication, whether it be another sign language, a written language. Phonocentrism is real. I acknowledge that, and we see that. But under this framework, it does make me think about how we are sharing visual products here. In this board meeting, we are giving superiority to the spoken word, to speech. So when we think about our board meetings, we are working only with 2 female interpreters. We've got 2 ASL interpreters, and thank you to all of them. Oh, I need to use my glasses. Give me just a moment. Can't survive without these. So these interpreters are our voices. They are voicing for our superintendent, for Ann Rifle, for Andy Leffler, for myself, for Jennifer Friedy, for Annette, for Amanda, with 2 voices being heard for all these individuals. They're representing the diversity of each of us. And what that really boils down to is that our deaf participation is being filtered out, really, by 2 fantastic interpreters. They're wonderful. This is not a critique against the interpreters, but it's the same voice for each and every individual, the same intonations. But our sign language is so uniquely different. And it's given me pause. And sorry, interpreters, I hope you're following me. Each of you board members have your own microphone. I see it. It's fantastic. You're able to share your own message and you are able to modulate your voices how you would like to. We don't have that same equal opportunity. That dynamic is not intentional, but it does support speech in place of the visual language. And I don't believe it's intentional. I want to acknowledge that. But however, as deaf individuals, we do feel it, especially when it impacts our deaf and hard of hearing children. Your decisions, your support is phenomenal, and I thank you for it. But it does also impact our children. This meeting, we should be focusing on the visual language because that is the true foundation for equality and justice and access for our community. I also want to recognize the years and years of representation for some of the board members here. Some joined in 2011, 2012, 2017. Some are newly joined about 2023. I'm not sure if he actually heard me or not. But regardless of how many years you've served on this board, we need to come to an understanding. And coming to that understanding needs to be centered around the representation and the support for our deaf and hard of hearing children. The longevity of these board members is valuable, and I commend that. But at the same time, it must be matched by presence and engagement and understanding about our culture. In summary, I know I'm running short on time. I'd like to see more visual access for our board members by using laptops so that all can have videos, so we can actually see your faces in conjunction with the interpreted message. Even what we've had happening up here today, trying to stay in the camera lens, people dancing all around one another, is not what we're looking for when we talk about visual access. I'd also like to see minimization of side conversations or multitasking on your computer or your phone. We see that. We're visual people. We see what's happening with the board members. And in summary, Anna's telling me I'm out of time. We are here to improve access for our children, equality, and respect for all of us, and that common understanding so that we can all understand the basic purpose of this school, which is rooted in ASL and a visual language, and it's a bilingual school with reading and writing. Thanks all.
Thank you. Looks like our next one is Logan.
Your duty is dismissed now, for right now, ma'am. Can everybody see me? Great. Hello, members of the board. My name is Logan Thompson, and I am coming here today as a community member as well as a deaf professional. I have some big concerns regarding the board members' comments and behavior from the previous meeting. I will not be singling out or mentioning people's names, but rather addressing the board due to standing procedures. As the previous comment regarding Jennifer Freedy, respecting our community, well-respected member, and shows up over and over and over again. The past meeting, she was sharing about her personal experience and describing what she had been through, and it was really, really touching. When she was finished, there was some comments made that were very flippant and disregarding, and that's not acceptable. I want to also mention that from my understanding with board procedures, they are fair procedures, orderly and efficient conduct in meetings. The previous meeting, when Jennifer made her comment and a board member said that that wasn't acceptable as an opinion, That is not okay. You're our board. You're supposed to listen to us. Your role is to listen and to think, not to cause an argument with a community member. Your response, it can be in the next meeting, but not during public comments. Honestly, you have no right to say things like, I don't accept your comment, Jennifer, because you're not even a part of our community. Some, I know you are, and you know who you are. Moving on, there's no overnight nurse, and I want to address that. There were some comments made about that in the previous meeting. And someone said, oh, you know, it's not a big deal. That was the attitude. In our homes, we don't have an overnight nurse. So everything should be fine. Your home cannot be compared to our dorm. We have over 70 students in the dormitory, and they need specific accommodations, whether that's administering medication, feeding tube, injectables, all of these things are required for those students. And that requires to be handled by a professional, not, no offense to our staff, no offense to them whatsoever, but it requires a professional that has been trained appropriately to administer those things. Not the dorm RAs that know CPR. I'm sorry, that's not good enough. And I hope you understand where I'm coming from and where this all stems from. This is to support our children. We value our community, and we want to make sure that we're raising up and doing everything that we can to support our next generation of deaf professionals and deaf community. And I hope that you can hear us and understand where we're coming from. Thank you.
Okay, it looks like Melinda Jones is next, and I have here noted it's 2 comments, separate topics.
Good evening. My name is Melinda Jones. I'm a mother of 2 daughters here, one in 4th grade and one in 7th grade. And I want to impress upon you, we moved here specifically for Indiana School for the Deaf. They are one of the best, if not the best, deaf school in the nation. As I share my comments, I do have 2 public comments. The first one is about the school board specifically, your structure. So the legal code, Indiana Code, Title 20, Educational Article 22, specifically speaks to board member assignments. When I look on the website, I do see that the assignments are there, but it's not clear who is filling which role. It's just a list of names. So there are 7 individual appointments by the governor, and there are voting members and non-voting members. There's the Director of Special Education, and they are a non-voting member. They're an advisor. There's 1 appointed by the governor as the governor's representative on the board. They are a non-voting member as well. They're just advisory in their capacity. There is someone appointed from the General Assembly, by the Speaker of the House. And I'm just curious who fills those roles. I don't know if you can answer that this evening or not. And if not, next meeting will suffice. The additional roles that I'm most interested in are the voting members. I'd like to know which member has a student here or a former student here. Because if not, that means that you're not representing the parents. And there should be a parent who is a parent of a student. I've been here for a long time. I know education has changed, perspective has changed, there are shifts, there are changes in the trends. But the current board, I don't feel really represents the ISD community. So I would like, again, I don't know if you can answer this month or I have to wait till next month. If you could talk about who is the parent representative, or if you could even go through your roles. I'm speaking because obviously Ann Rifle, I know she is an alumnus of ISD. And Andy, we know who he is because he is in the community, but the other individuals on the board, it's not clear which area of the statute you fulfill. So if you could share that information with us. It's my understanding, according to the law, there should be 10 individuals on this board and I only see 8. So there's 2 missing, but it would be nice to know what role you fill and what that makeup is specifically, and to see if you really truly are representing the school well or not. And okay, I'll go on to the next comment because I did submit 2 comments. We all know there have been budget cuts and it's very concerning. I want to preface this with, I know that you have to submit your public comment 24 hours prior to the meeting. I submitted one, and then Kim Kaus had talked about, she had the meeting with Representative Thompson. That was new information, which is very inspiring. So this was already presented or submitted. So to backtrack a bit, you all know that there is the Ways and Means Committee. I don't think that our community necessarily always recognizes the power that they hold. They handle the state budget. So Representative Claire, I know he is specifically on the Ways and Means Committee. And I was really encouraged to realize that he was also on our board and that he serves on the Ways and Means Committee. So I do have a question though. We took this budget cut, and I think that was announced in, April, May, whatever it was, when all of this suddenly had arisen. It was a crisis and it was an emergency. Representative Claire, you serve on the Ways and Means Committee. And I do wonder, when you were on that committee, if you considered your position on the school board and thought about the impact that it would have on ISD, and how much did you contribute to that discussion? Did you mention the fact that you're on ISD school board and that you disagreed with those potential cuts? Or did you just sit back and let the proceedings happen and expect that the state would just address it as they would because there was that projected shortfall? The importance of us having a committee member for the Ways and Means, and then also you being a school board. I really wanted to know where you stood on this, and seeing that connection. I am glad to hear that you did recently join that meeting with Representative Thompson for improvements of our school. The one thing about ISD, we have one of the smallest budgets across the country for a deaf school. It's ridiculous. And yet our school is phenomenal. I see how my children are growing. So I don't know, Representative Claire, if you can answer that tonight or next time, but I'd love to hear your response to that. Thank you.
Okay, the next one is Sharon.
All right, and give you a script.
Hello to the board. Can you all see me fine? Okay. Hello, board members, and to our new superintendent. I am Sharon Leslie Dunn. I am an alumnus from ISD. I'm also a parent of a deaf son. And now I'm a grandma, and they're in 5th grade of a deaf kiddo. And so I am technically a 4th generation family at ISD. The reason I wanted to make this comment to you tonight is because I want to understand what the role of our state representative is on the board. Because when I think about it, I think about it would be a great support, more visibility for the school. You would see how great we are. It's confusing. I just don't understand quite what the role is and what supports are being given. So for instance, I would assume you're an advocate. an advisor, a liaison. I've seen you at these meetings and you've recognized the needs. And I would hope that you are showing the state that, just like the previous comments that were made about the Ways and Means Committee and about how wise we are being with our resources that were allotted. And again, I'm so thankful for the meeting that we just had, and that's a great start. I'm just hoping that it can really be improved in the future. And like Melinda said, this is one of the top schools in the nation, and that's true all over the United States. And our pay is low. And I appreciate the staff who really invest and give their heart to our children. And I mean, we are so proud of this school and the quality of education that we still provide. I want to see ISD be strong and continue to be here for the future. Thank you.
Thank you all. We appreciate your sharing with us. We really and truly do. And so that concludes the public comment for the evening. Now is the time for board comments. If anyone has anything that they would like to share this time.
You see this for the last several months, I've been down honestly with the budget cuts, the conversations I've had with individuals. But one thing I want to say, this made my day. 13 seniors. I'm counting, I'm not going to promise that my math is the best. I may have to join Kim here. I've got to get my readers. So all 13 of our seniors have a plan upon graduation. So this is all successes. There's no failures. This information really made my day. I don't know who created that particular slide, but I think that's the kind of information we need to have. And it just reminds the board what a great job our staff is doing. And it is a success. I know we're looking at the data and sometimes it can be hurtful, but we have to look at that end game, that end result. We had 13 successes from those graduates. So I thank you to the staff.
Okay, well, if that is all, I just wanted to give you the friendly reminder that we do need to host our executive session in this room. So please feel free to visit out in the hallway, but we will go ahead and adjourn at 7:53. Thank you.